I'm referring to Article 3 as an example of how you can do your individual assignment. Article 3 is actually entitled Building an Ethical Career, a three-stage approach to navigating moral challenges at work. The author says decades worth of research has identified social and psychological processes and biases that clouds people's moral judgment. These lead them to violate their own values and often create contorted post hoc rationalization or post hoc justification for their behavior. Post hoc meaning after the effect. After they have done something wrong, you try and rationalize and justify that it's the right thing to do. So, according to the author, the first step is to have moral humility. Moral humility pushes people to admit that temptation, rationalization, and situation can lead even the best of us to misbehave. So they recommend that it helps to see this sort of character development as a lifelong pursuit. So you see, most of the time when authors discuss moral issues, they adopt ethical theories without telling you. So what ethical theory is this talking about? So for those who are familiar, you will know that this is talking about lifelong development of the character. This has to do with virtue ethics. So the authors propose a three-stage approach to develop or to build an ethical career. So the three stages are: prepare in advance for moral challenges, plan ahead. That's the first step. Second step is learn how to make good decision. Make good decision in the moment. So I learn how to make good decision. And third, to reflect upon your past decision, whether it's successful or failure. So planning to be good. Number one, prepare for ethical challenges. Are often well aware of what they should do when thinking about the future, but tend to focus on what they want to do in the present. So we need to plan ahead. And this discussion here is asking you to consider the book The Road to Character. This book by David Brooks is actually in the Sunway University campus library. Of course, you can't get it now. The book asks you to consider two types of virtues. One is what you write in your resume, and the other is when you die, when people talk about you, what do they talk about? Your eulogy virtues. And how to develop these eulogy virtues. This is referring to Peter Drucker, who says, what do you want to be remembered for? And what do you want to contribute? Benjamin Franklin famously wrote in his autobiography about trying to master 13 traits he identified as essential for virtuous life, including industry, working hard, justice, being fair, and humility, being humble. So this I write here has to do with the formation of habits. Again, this has to do with virtue ethics in this area. The authors recommend to consider what if scenario, or they call it the if then scenario. If I am solicited for a bribe, then I will consult my company's legal team and formal policies for guidance. If I witness sexual harassment or racial prejudice, then I will immediately stand up for the victim. So it's asking you to think about it. If this happened, then what will you do? If this happened, it's like scenario planning. So is this a little bit like Kohlberg's experiment? Let you think about it. So they also recommend having a supportive network, particularly a trusted ethical mentor. May also bring you opportunities to make a positive impact on your career. Okay, further down, for the second stage will be learn how to make good decision here. First, step back from traditional calculations such as cost-benefit analysis or ROI. Cost-benefit, as if you understand, this is actually utilitarian method, a quantitative approach. Develop a habits of searching for moral issues and ethical implication at stake in a given decision and analyze them using multiple philosophical perspective. For example, using rules-based deontology, like Kantian ethics, like prima facie duty. From the consequential perspective of utilitarianism, identify potential outcome for all parties involved, affected. What is the greatest good for the greatest number of people? Or Aristotelian perspective of virtue ethics, ask yourself what course of action would be best reflect a virtuous person. So he's asking you basically to apply different ethical theories to practice making ethical decision. In fact, this exercise that I've given you, this assignment itself, is actually this style of practice. So it says here, each of the philosophies have advantages and disadvantages. By addressing the fundamental decision criteria for all three rules, consequences, and virtues, will make you less likely to overlook important ethical consideration. Meaning, familiarity with applying the ethical theory will help you to make better decision. And in fact, he has the two authors have in fact given some guidelines here, some tests that you can use for a quick rule of thumb to make ethical decision. Number one, the publicity test, also known as the front page test, front page of a newspaper. What if the act that you are about to perform appear on the front page of your newspaper? Will you be ashamed? Will you feel that it's a wrong decision? If you think that it's a wrong decision, meaning you wouldn't want it to appear on the front page of a newspaper, you want to hide it, you see. So if you think that decision is right, you are not afraid that this kind of decision appear on the front page. You appear on the front page. Or the generalizability test, meaning can it be generalized to all people facing the same situation? The mirror test says that if you wake up in the morning, if you make a bad decision, you look at the mirror, can you face yourself or not? Can you face yourself or not? There is actually another test that the two authors didn't mention. It's called the mother test. What if your mother know about this? Will your mother be ashamed of you? You know, a very simple rule of thumb test that you can use to decide whether a decision would be considered ethical or unethical. Furthermore, the author talks about the Milgram experiments. Those who have followed me in leadership classes, they will know about this. Obedience to authority will result in when the leaders asking you to perform unethical act, you tend to just be obedient and perform unethical act. So it's very difficult in the workplace. Furthermore, here is talking about facing challenges. When you face challenges in the workplace, when you're not doing something is unethical, you should at least look at some guideline that the company has, some protocols and some values that has been established in the past, because this sort of ethical issue will not be the first time being faced by people. Third stage in this approach would be to think about your ethical decision, to reflect back about your successes and failure in terms of making ethical decision or in your ethical behavior, and as a result of this, learn to become a better person in the future. This again, which ethical theory support this? Ethical people aren't perfect, but when they make mistakes, they review and reflect on them so that they can do better in the future. This is virtue ethics. Okay, this is virtue ethics. Okay, so roughly this is what the article is talking about. Let's look at how to address this as your individual assignment. Your guide to your individual assignment that I've given you. So I'm talking about building an ethical career. So what I did is I used the rubric that I've given you here. There are broadly 5 sections. 5. And you see that there is here 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 sections. You refer back to the rubric that I've given you. So I'm giving you some guide here. So number 1, critically, I'm using this article 3, building an ethical career, as an example how to do your essay for individual assignment. Of course, I put it in a table form. You have to write as an essay form. I'm just telling you this section, how do you score. Critically evaluate the ethical issue relevant to the article. So the issue here is this: a career has an ethical dimension because behaving unethically at work in one's career can have negative consequences on others. Because it has negative consequences, it affects other people. In fact, if you think about it, it not only affect other people, it affects you and yourself and yourself and oneself. And because it has a negative impact on people, including yourself, it is an ethical issue. Okay, so you can provide 2 examples. 2 examples of people who behave unethically, and as a result, consequences of impacting people. I suppose you have to find some examples yourself. One of the example would be if some of the students who follow me in leadership, the Madoff case, Bernie Madoff, what he did, Ponzi scheme, he scammed people, he cheat their money and so on. What are the implications on people and himself and his workers? So you think about it, get 2 examples. One example, discuss it. Why is it an ethical issue having an ethical career? Number 2, another example. It is an ethical issue because, as the article mentioned just now by the 2 authors, building an ethical career, good intention is not enough. Having good intention is not enough. When you are in that situation, you will perform badly. So identify and discuss the impact on relevant stakeholders. So here, who will be affected by an ethical career? If a person has an ethical career, who will be affected? Which group of people, which group of stakeholders will be affected? Can be family members, can be the perpetrator himself, it can be employees, it can be reputation of company, it can be consumer, it can be government. So you have to consider. Just give me 3. The best is to consider a concrete example and consider 3 group of stakeholders that can or may be impacted by this kind of ethical issue. So discuss the ethical argument supporting the issue. So here, for example, yes, planning for an ethical career is the right thing to do because, give me 3 reasons. Find 3 reasons why building an ethical career, planning for an ethical career is the right thing to do. Okay? So discuss the ethical argument against the issue. No, planning for an ethical career is not the right thing to do because. So I know that you find it a bit more challenging, right? To discuss why the 3 approach by these authors, you don't think that is the right thing to do. So I'm giving you an example here. Example would be, if you read carefully what the article says, it says, ask you to think about it. In the future, if this happen, what will you do? If that happen, what will you do? Learn to make ethical decision by applying all these ethical theories, right? Okay, the argument would be thinking about what you will do in the future or in different scenario is not the same as being in or confronted or confronting an ethical dilemma itself. This is actually the Kohlberg's criticism. If you study the Kohlberg's theory again, you find that Kohlberg's theory is being criticized. You are asking a child to think if you are Heinz and your wife is dying, but thinking about something and actually having a wife who is dying is different. Okay,